Ciao studenti! Do you start getting nervous just hearing the words reflexive verbs, let alone conjugating them? No worries, you're in good company. Reflexive verbs are a nightmare for many Italian learners. But they don't need to. In fact, they are nice and especially useful verbs. So today, I will show you how to conjugate reflexive verbs in a pain-free and easy to understand way. Now, my goal is especially to make you understand what reflexive verbs are and the mechanisms behind them, so that you can do this by yourself too. It will be like a sort of tutorial where you watch me conjugate reflexive verbs and follow my thought process. But before we begin, the first most important key aspect of reflexive verbs that you need to focus is this. Reflexive is a form, not a verb. We have a reflexive form of a verb. Now, this may sound like a subtlety, but it's actually key to understand reflexive verbs and use them correctly. If you realize that reflexive verbs are not just another bunch of Italian verbs and very weird verbs, but they are actually the usual verb, but used that you're familiar with, but used in another form, the reflexive form, suddenly they will look way less weird and much less unfamiliar. So, the reflexive form is just this. It's a regular verb plus a tiny little word that's called the reflexive pronoun. So, a reflexive form of a verb is made of two parts, the regular verb and the reflexive pronoun. Let me show you some example. Let's suppose we have the verb for to get up in Italian. That's alzarsi. If you look at it like this, it can be very confusing. What's that? That's another verb, difficult verb to memorize. It's not the regular are, ere, ire verb that you're used to. Well, actually it is. Just look at this. Alzare più si. That's what alzarsi is. Alzarsi is just the regular verb plus the pronoun, the reflexive pronoun si. So that's what I mean when I say that reflexive verbs are just the reflexive form of a regular verb. Alzare is a regular are verb. Let's see more examples. The verb for to put on in Italian. Mettersi, to put on. Again, mettersi is just mettere, ere verb, plus si. There you have it. Mettersi. Another one, to dress, vestirsi. What is vestirsi? Vestirsi is just the reflexive form of the verb vestire. Vestire plus si. That's what we mean with reflexive form, the regular verb plus the reflexive pronoun. Now, why is the pronoun there? The pronoun is the si. The si stands for the self. So, se stesso, oneself. This pronoun is there to tell you that the person is doing the action on themselves, not on someone else. So if I use the verb vestirsi, is to give the information that someone is dressing themselves, not someone else. Okay? So, just remember this and take care of each one of these two parts, the regular verb and the pronoun, individually and at the right time, and conjugating a reflexive verb will be much easier. This is the key to understand reflexive verbs. Please focus this. Now, let's conjugate them and you will see this concept in action. Okay, when you conjugate reflexive verbs, the only two things that you need to remember are: first, make the pronoun match the subject, and two, conjugate the verb as a regular verb that you already know. So what do I mean with make the pronoun match the subject? With the reflexive verbs, we use them when we have an action, a verb, that the person does on themselves, right? So the subject is the same as the one who's receiving the action. So we need to make the pronoun that shows the self, tells you what the self is, to the subject. I'm going to show you this in a moment. So take care of the pronoun this way, make it match with the subject, and conjugate the verb as a regular verb, the verb that you know. Let's do this together. Let's start with vestirsi. So we have said that the first step is that you realize that vestirsi is just the regular verb vestire plus the pronoun si. That's the first thing that you always need to do. Break the verb down into parts. This is going to make your job much easier. Then the second step that you need to do is that you move the pronoun in front of the verb. Why I want you to do this immediately? Because this is the number one thing students forget and get confused with. If you take the care of the pronoun immediately, you will not forget it and you will not make mistakes. So take the pronoun and move that in front of the verb. So it will look like this. Si vestire. This is not the finished conjugation, it's not the finished product, but this is an intermediate step that you need to make. Move the pronoun immediately in front of the verb because pronouns 95% of the times go in front of the verb. Si vestire. Then the next step is that you change the pronoun. Take care of the pronoun first. You change the pronoun and you match that to the subject. So let's suppose I want to say, I dress myself. So I is the subject. What is the reflexive pronoun for I? It's mi. So, mi vestire. As you can see, I haven't conjugated vestire yet. I've only taken care of the pronoun. I'm doing this in step. So I first move the pronoun in front of the verb, si vestire, and then I change the pronoun to match the subject of my sentence. And my sentence is, I dress myself. And then I have the verb to take care of. So I need to conjugate the verb. But now the verb is just a normal verb. I need a verb that you know already. How do you say vestire? So I need a verb. What's the ending for I? Oh, so it's vesto. So there you have it. Mi vesto. Mi vesto. There you have it. You have conjugated vestirsi for first person singular, present tense. I dress myself. Mi vesto. Now keep doing this you can keep doing this for all the subjects and therefore all the pronouns. Let's do this together so we review the process. So let's start over from vestirsi, to dress oneself. We're going to do you dress yourself, he or she dresses herself or himself, etc. So let's start with vestirsi. Start with the verb. Break up the verb in two parts. Vestire più si. So you remember this is a normal verb but used in the reflexive form with the reflexive pronoun. Next step, immediately take care of the pronoun. So move the pronoun in front of the verb. Si vestire. Then change the pronoun to match the subject. In this instance, I'm saying you dress yourself. So the pronoun for you is ti vestire. Final step, conjugate the verb. So this time you need to conjugate vestire for second person singular, and that's vesti. Ti vesti. And there you have it. Let's do this again for he or she, it's the same. Let's keep the first steps because they are the same. So vestirsi, vestire più si vestire. Let's change the pronoun. It actually remains the same in this instance because the pronoun for he or she is si, but we need to change the verb. How do we say vestire for third person singular? Veste. There you have it. Let's do this for us. We have vestirsi, vestire più si vestire, the pronoun always in front. What's the pronoun for us, for we? Ci. And then let's conjugate the verb, ci vestiamo. There you have it. Let's do you all, so you plural. The pronoun for you, plural, is vi. So we just changed that. And then we conjugate the verb for you, plural. How do you say vestire you, plural? So second person plural. Vestite. Vi vestite. There you have it. And finally, let's do this for they. What's the pronoun, the reflexive pronoun for they? It's si. So, si vestire, it's exactly the same as you can see. And then we take care of the verb. Third person plural of vestire is vestono. Quindi si vestono. That's how you conjugate reflexive verbs. So let me show you this real quick with another verb. Let's do the verb alzarsi. Alzarsi means to get up. What's the first thing that we need to do? Break up the verb. Alzare più si. Okay. Second thing that we need to do, move the pronoun in front of the verb. Always do this. This is going to make your life much easier. Si alzare. Perfetto. Now, let's have fun changing the pronoun to match it to the different subjects and conjugate the verb, which is a regular verb, to match the subject too. So I'm going to do them all one after the other so that you're going to see them all together. So, si alzare, let's start doing to get up from I to they. Si alzare. Mi alzo. Okay? Mi is the pronoun for I, and alzo is the regular verb of conjugating alzare for I. Ti alzi. Si alza. Ci alziamo. Vi alzate. Si alzano. And there you have it, the conjugation of a reflexive verb. Okay, let's do another example with another verb. I really want to show you a lot of examples. So, let's do the verb mettersi. What's the trick? Break down the verb, mettere più si, move the pronoun in front of the verb, si mettere, and then change the pronoun and conjugate the verb. Mi metto. Ti metti. Si mette. Ci mettiamo. Vi mettete. Si mettono. There you have it. Mettersi, to put on, conjugated in present tense even though it's a reflexive verb. So guys, you can use this structure for any tense. Now, what I want to notice is that with some tenses, there will be some differences from regular conjugation. For example, in passato prossimo, we always use essere for reflexive verbs, but the structure is the same. If you keep using this structure, you will always conjugate verbs correctly. So I hope this clarified what reflexive verbs are and how to look at them with fresh eyes that will help you not feeling frustrated or frightened by them. Just remember, a regular verb plus a tiny word that makes it reflexive. So it's a reflexive form. If you like this topic and want more, please let me know in the comments below. I'm thinking of making more videos replying to any questions you may have regarding reflexive verbs, and also I would like to make more videos with just more practice. For example, conjugating reflexive verbs with different tenses, passato prossimo, futuro, whatever. So if you would like these videos, I want to be sure that you find them helpful. So if you would like to see more videos like this, please let me hear your voice and request these videos in the comments below. Also, don't forget to practice. Please watch my video with top 25 reflexive verbs for a list of the most commonly used reflexive verbs and use those to practice this process. Remember, practice is key. Pratica, pratica, pratica. Okay, that's all for today, guys. I hope this was helpful and really helped you understanding reflexive verbs more. Let me know. Buona giornata e a presto. Ciao da Valentina.